Hey guys, Desolate Magic here, and it's time to finish up the most insane spoilers we have so far from Dominaria. Keep in mind, I think we only know maybe a third of the cards, and even that's being generous. So there's probably more to come, but I'm going to end on multicolored and colorless. And a lot of these don't really require an explanation at all. They just completely speak for themselves, so I'm going to just buzz through these. But first, I hate to make this announcement, but did you know that my fellow MTG YouTuber, Void Mage Gamer, is a complete asshole? He came to my Discord server because I invited him because I'm like, hey, he seems like a cool guy. Awesome. Boy, was I wrong. Holy shit, he just posted a bunch of lewd, racist, offensive, hateful memes and then got in a bunch of fights with a bunch of people and then called me names for being oversensitive about it. Literally him attacking my patrons on Patreon, which are the people on Discord. Are you kidding me? He has a sense of humor of a 10-year-old and the typical attitude of some 4chan piece of shit. Just basically some edgelord douchebag where, oh, the more offensive the meme, the funnier it is, instead of actual humor. I mean, the kid's a fucking middle schooler, basically. Just don't even bother with his channel. He's just like MatPat. I'm sure he looks wonderful with editing and it seems like nothing's wrong with him, but he is an unbelievable asshole. I had to ban him and delete everything he's written for 24 hours on my Discord channel. That is how bad it got. Fuck you, Void Mage. I hope your channel crashes and burns. Speaking of complete scumbag slimy assholes, Slimefoot the Stowaway. Now this guy snuck onto my Discord channel too, but I caught him right away. So you might see this and be like, yeah, that's kind of nice. What's so special about it? Is it even worth mentioning? Well, I mean, first I should probably read it. Whenever a sapling you control dies, Slimefoot the Stowaway deals 1 damage to each opponent and you gain 1 life. Now, you would gain 2 life then if you granted him lifelink because of the way that that's phrased. So there's that, and then you pay for and create a sapling. Now, if you've ever played against a sapling commander deck or a sapling modern deck, I mean, it's kind of second rate, but they're no joke. And this guy is damn in a deck like that. So I figured I'd point him out just so that if you own a deck like that, you would throw him in there. And he's an uncommon. I just can't believe how many cards are uncommons that are astonishingly good. Next up, Mox Amber. Boy, apparently these are in no particular order. It costs 0. It's a mythic, and you drop it in and you can tap it to add 1 mana of any color among legendary creatures and planeswalkers you control. Wow. Oh boy, you guys, it's Reflecting Pool. This is an unreliable double land drop, basically. I mean, yeah, it's an artifact that's easier to destroy. Who would bother? But you could drop in the land and then also drop in this, and okay, now you're technically 3 turns ahead of your opponent, because remember, 1 in 3 cards in your deck are lands. That doesn't really apply when you start with 7 cards, but you get my idea. I mean, being 1 mana ahead of your opponent is huge. So it's not insignificant, it's just you drop this in on turn 2 and it does nothing. It literally does absolutely nothing. Now you drop it in on turn 12, and did you really need 1 more mana? I mean, you'd draw this and it would almost be a land draw. So this would have to show up at the exact right time, or you'd have to do something with affinity, or do something with the number of artifacts in play, which is basically the same thing, or tap an artifact, do this, or I don't know, it just doesn't seem like that good of a card. It is so likely to backfire, and it gets way, way worse when you put it into modern. I don't see this even breaking $10. It's mostly on the list, so I can tell you it's not good, but it's a mythic and it has Mox in the name, so of course I'm going to mention it. Now also, this is a historic spell. You'd almost get more value out of this, from that. Now in the right deck, this is good, so don't take that the wrong way, but you drop this in for 0 and you just cast a legendary or historic spell. So that's interesting. You might get some good triggers off that. But yeah, this is pretty disappointing in my opinion. I mean, like I said, you put it in the right deck, it'll be amazing. But the fact that it has to be in the right deck or it's worthless means it's a little narrow. I wouldn't go investing in these. Next up, Tatyova, Benefic Druid, and probably Russian citizen. Dude, does that not sound totally Russian? I mean, come on. Now, she is a 5-cost 3/3 Merfolk Druid, so not a lot going on there. But legendary, so okay. But I mean, I heard 200 cards are legendary in Dominaria, so, ooh. How unique and powerful. But whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life and draw a card. So 1 life, I mean, there you go. It could happen a couple times. Cool. How many lands are you really going to play when she costs 5, though? I mean, this ain't going to happen on turn 2, you know what I mean? But the draw a card thing is huge. So basically, you top deck a land. Your turn is over. You were top decking. There's nothing relevant in your hand or nothing at all in your hand. And oh, look, another basic land. Boom. You play it, gain a life, draw the next card. Ta-da. If it's another land, oh my gosh, your luck is terrible. Otherwise, this is like the anti-top decking a land card. And it doesn't even say basic land. It says any land. Oh, by the way, there are ways to flicker lands. I'm sure you could do it infinitely, make this an infinite combo, but it costs 5. So it's like, how real really would that be? But yeah, this is just, I mean, to prevent late game top decking, and then it's got a little bit of synergy with Merfolk. This is pretty cool. I like it. Next up, this card is bonkers, but it costs 7 and it's a legendary sorcery, so it should be. Primeval's Glorious Rebirth. Now, from the name and the artwork, and then, well, honestly, the flavor text is centuries ago, 5 dragons conquered death to rule the living. That's a whole thing. I could go into it, but it's not really my thing on this channel. Although, I mean, I gotta give this a little background. So there were elder dragons on Dominaria, at least that's where they were from, and they had like some big interplanar battle thing. They were almost as powerful as original planeswalkers, which were godlike. So they're probably more powerful than existing planeswalkers. Makes sense. Nicol Bolas is one of them. So there's your power level there. Then there was the primeval dragons, which is the ones that this is referring to. And let's see, what are their names? Oh yeah, it's Daragaz, and he like changed his name, lost his memory, it's a whole thing. Rith, Treva, Dromar, and Croesus from Skyrim. Okay, yeah, I know which one came first, but still, I mean, a dragon priest named Croesus and then a dragon named Croesus. Am I gonna not mention that? I mean, come on. So anyway, they're just dragons. I mean, they ruled the plane and stuff. They were way more powerful than humans and wizards and all that. But then they got like tricked and then they were killed. Last I heard, I thought they were alive. I thought that Daragaz resurrected them, but maybe he failed or maybe they got killed again. It's a whole thing. What I do know is that the story probably won't explain it. But get this, okay? Maybe not, some elder dragons are still alive. I mean, we know Nicol Bolas, and I could have sworn that Ugin was one of them, but somebody said not, and then maybe he's like a ghost. That's the whole thing, too. But, okay, there's Nicol Bolas, and then there's his siblings, Chromium Rule, Arcade's Sabbath, and Palladia Moors, and then their cousin, Vivictus Asmati. And they, like one story said they survived, and another story said they didn't, and, like, they basically contradict themselves. So what they choose to be true is what is true, so we really do not know. Oh, and I mean, this article confirms, like what I just said, Ugin could be considered an elder dragon. He's been sort of referred to as that, but it's not terribly clear. His power level was roughly on par with Nicol Bolas, and he's gigantic and he's a dragon, so, I mean, hey, why not? So that's where we're sitting with this, but the primeval dragons would not stand a chance against the elder dragons. That seems to be the gist of what all lore is saying. So the only question remains is the crew of the Weatherlight or some wizard or whatever resurrecting the 5 primevals so that they can fight with them, fight Nicol Bolas, do something, fight the Cabal? Or is the Cabal's plan to resurrect the primevals? Because honestly, I think the dragons could take down the demon. What's his name? Belzen something. I think I called him Billy. Oh, and if he gets a sex change, obviously I'm going to call him Betsy. I mean, that's a given. So, I mean, the dragons kind of seem like dicks, so I'm going to say it's probably the Cabal. And this is probably the last chapter revealed. Yay. So anyway, hugely significant for the storyline, obviously. That's why I included it. But also, return all legendary permanent cards from your graveyard to the battlefield? I mean, you almost have to be losing the game first for this to do anything, and all it'll do is kind of turn it around. But, I mean, still, like, this is almost Rise of the Dark Realms, except that costs 9, and I think it's also Sorcery. It might be instant, I don't know. And then it grabs everything from all graveyards, all players' graveyards. Oh, and also they don't have to be legendary. So the problem is you're going to fetch legendary permanents, but you need a legendary permanent in play to cast this. And it costs 7. I don't know. It's a nice little insurance policy. They board wipe and then you unboard wipe basically, except not really because you have to have a legendary in play. So I don't think it's a very good card. But still, it's pretty significant. So next up we've got Joyra, Weatherlight Captain. Oh, so the card says, word for word, and I quote, whenever you cast a historic spell, that's right, British people, it's not an historic, learn how to speak English, draw a card. Why they wrote it that way, I don't know. Like, why do British people think the letter H is a myth, that it just doesn't exist? They deny its existence even when it's staring them in the face. Anyway, this is pretty nuts. I mean, this is kind of like SRAM, where, what was that one? Artifacts? I think it was, draw a card. Maybe it was Artifacts and Auras. I don't know. He was really good. Like, he never really got above like $3-4, but he was just good. By the way, I gotta add this or I'm gonna forget. She's not a wizard subtype. What? I mean, I guess she hasn't really used magic except for like weird artificer magic, but come on. I mean, she literally like works and teaches at a wizard school, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, I mean, anything that says, hey, cast this and draw a card, you're going to almost cascade it. Like, I mean, you're probably not going to have the mana to cast a second spell or whatever, like, whatever, but it's not bad. I mean, just think about it. You slap down a Saga and then, oh, I'm going to replace it in my hand. It's continuous draw triggers that you don't have to tap, you don't have to do this, do that, pay mana, nothing. It's just, oh, trigger, draw another card, trigger, draw another card. Never underestimate the power of that. That is powerful. I still can't believe she's not a wizard, though. Next up, quite possibly the best card on this entire list, Muldrotha the Gravetide. Boy, that kind of almost looks like a moose or something. Like a moose with really big arms. I never thought I'd say this about any modern artwork coming out of Wizards of the Coast, but look at the rack on that one. Anyway, during each of your turns, you may play up to one permanent card of each permanent type from your graveyard. So, very restrictive, but that said, they destroy it, you bring it back the next turn. They destroy it again, you bring it back the next turn. You can just keep bringing back the same card over and over and over. And then from there, you might get, a different type. Like bring back, I don't know, an equipment and then a creature on the same turn. No, I said bring back, what I meant was cast. You still have to pay for it. So it's just like a zone expansion, no recycling thing. It costs 6. I mean, it is a 6/6, so it's probably not going anywhere. But it's 3 color. It's like, how playable is this really? And there's a boatload of infinite combos with this, but they're all in modern. They're all 3 card. They're all obscenely unlikely to happen. But it is just good. I mean, remember some of the $20 plus cards, like in the last, 3-4 years, were cards that would go to the graveyard and come back and do it again and again and again. I think there was like a 2/1 that cost like 1 that did that. Oh my gosh. Yeah, the Mythic Zombie, and then there was the rare, like, Warrior dude. I mean, it was some good cards, so if you just take your entire graveyard and do it, oh my gosh. So yeah, this is powerful. I just don't think it's going to see a whole lot of play, but who knows? Somebody can build a deck around it. It's just, come on, it costs 6 and it's 3 color. Like, come on. Next up, Power Stone Shard, and oh my gosh, it's in the common slot. So it's an artifact. It costs 3. I mean, that's rough, because when you got ramp, I mean, people complain about mana dorks costing 2, let alone 3. But this is hard to destroy. You basically get artifact affinity or whatever, and you can tap for colorless for each artifact you control named Power Stone Shard. So, I mean, you get like 3 of them out, which is very difficult to do. I mean, you'd almost have to just go directly fetch them out of your deck or something. And, if you got 3 of them in play, you can tap for 9 mana, but none of it's colored. I mean, there's filters and stuff, but I don't know. This is just like, it's not great, but if you had like 6 of them out, I mean, that's 36 mana. Now, here's the thing. Mirage Mirror. Now you've got 2. What's that other one? That Mechanized Production. Okay, now you've got 1 every single upkeep, and then you might accidentally win the game. This card plus card cloning, card imitation, just whatever, artifact cloning, it's insane. It's completely insane. There are game-winning X spells. I mean, there's Jaya's Immolating Inferno or whatever. There's Torment of Hailfire. There's no like Hydras or anything, and Rolling Thunder, well, I mean, Immolating is kind of the same thing. I guess you could say Walking Ballista, and that actually would be colorless or generic or whatever, so, So yeah, throw this in a treasure deck. I mean, there you go. Revel in Riches, Mechanized Production, throw this in and have a backup win condition. That actually sounds like something I don't want to play against, so that'll be fun. So next up, we've got Oath of Teferi. This card is kind of disappointing. I mean, it's another Oath card. Okay, great. Oath of Ajani costs 2. This costs 5. Little bit of a playability difference there. Blue-white doesn't look like much of a thing in this set, and that is not the Charlie Murphy Teferi. So not much to like about this, but it is significant because of the last line. So you may activate the loyalty abilities of planeswalkers you control twice each turn rather than only once. So this is the Chain Veil. This would be absolutely nuts in a Super Friends deck, but it still costs 5 though. Oh, that's so high. But if this costs 3, people would be just complaining about it. It would be outrageously overpowered. Now the problem is blue and white planeswalkers aren't really that great right now. I mean, there's some Gideons or something, but ugh. Dude, Shadow's Jace would be nuts with this card, but it's cycled out. So, okay, also when he enters the battlefield, exile another target permanent you control, return to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. I mean, if you ticked a Planeswalker all the way down to 1 with minus abilities, you could flicker it and it would re-enter with more loyalty, I guess. Otherwise, I mean, it's only ones you control. It's like, what is even the point of that? And you might have noticed, it doesn't say May. I don't love this card, but still, it's the Chain Veil. I mean, come on. I actually sure hope I'm referring to the right card. I'm pretty sure the Chain Veil said use the loyalty abilities twice. I can't check. My internet just went out and I don't know why. So next up, Shana Sisei's Legacy. Now this card is crazy. Absolutely crazy. We saw this. It was like a West Vale priest or something from the cult. Oh my god, this is like an improved version of it because you don't have to flip it. That when you get to 4 creatures and flip it, and then its power and toughness are equal to the number of creatures. This is just straight up, this costs 2, drop it in. It has partial hexproof because remember, story, she has a golden shield, whatever. And then she gets +1/+1 for each creature you control. So you drop her in and she could be a 10/10 for 2 mana. I mean, damn, like you probably would have won anyway with, you know, what is it, 9 creatures? Or wait, it's, no, each creature, including herself. So she's always a 1/1 no matter what. But, yeah, drop her in with 9 other creatures and damn. She's legendary, which means she's historic. She's a human warrior. There's some synergy there. And, like I said, she can't be the target of abilities your opponents control. Spells, though, she can. So that's just kind of nice, I guess. I mean, she's just powerful. In the right deck, she would be really, really, really good. I think in most cases, she'd probably be a 5/5 for 2, but I mean, come on, she's a 5/5 for 2. Like, that's pretty good. And finally, you knew this one was coming. I already said it in the other spoiler video, but it's so powerful and so good I had to mention it again. It's Damping Sphere, and that artwork is freaking hilarious. Also, is that not the Eye of Magus from Skyrim? What is with them ripping off Skyrim even though Skyrim ripped them off? Anyway, if a land is tapped for 2 or more mana, it produces 1 single generic mana. I read that wrong. I thought it meant it produces generic mana instead, because that's literally what it says. But from a technical standpoint, that means, like, actually 1 mana. Can't wait for everybody to misinterpret this card, because I sure as hell did. So Devotion decks with Nykthos get wrecked, and this absolutely shuts down Tron. That's a shame, because that was one of the more, like, kind of fair-seeming decks. Although Wormcoil Engine could go die in a fire. Oh god, Tron with Karn, just don't even start with that. You know what, I changed my mind, I hate Tron, so this will shut it down for 2. Unfortunately, like what, 5% of modern players play Tron? Why would you even put this in your sideboard? But get this, each spell a player casts costs 1 generic more to cast for each other spell that player has cast this turn. So the first spell, okay, no problem. And then the second spell costs 1 more. The third spell costs 2 more, so it keeps people from spamming dirt cheap spells, which actually can shut down some infinite combos. Not many of them, but some. Why did I say sun? By the way, the flavor text on this is awesome. A Thran relic. It has spent 10,000 years doing absolutely nothing. We've all been there, Damping Sphere. We've all been there. So that's it for all the amazing, insane, powerful, and new and awesome or reprinted cards. It's really an awful shame that a couple cards from green ruined the entire set and they're going to ruin standard, but oh well, it is what it is. That's Wizards for you. I don't know what else you expected. Hopefully those couple cards from green don't find decks to go in. Nobody plays them. They're just some little side thing that nobody takes seriously and the net deckers don't copy because it didn't show up at a tournament. That would be nice, and at this point it's our only hope unless they ban the cards. So otherwise the rest of these colors look pretty fun, especially some in this video. So I look forward to it, and I'll see you guys next video.